Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and in this mini Unity tutorial I'm going to show you how you can create a wind spell for your game. So the idea of what this is going to be is we're going to create a little button on screen which will allow us, when we press it, we'll have a little bit of magic spell going on, a little bit of razzpazz on the screen, and then the wind will occur. So to do this, what we're going to start off with is a particle system. So let's go to our camera right here. And ideally we want this to occur in front of the camera. So let's right click on the camera, let's go to effects and go to particle system. Now I would like this to be a little bit random. So what I'm going to do is firstly change the start color to a greenish kind of color. And let's play around with some of these settings. So the lifetime, let's have as a little bit lower than 5, so we'll have it as about 4. Start speed, we'll probably have 5 is alright. And let's have a look at start rotation. Let's change this to 45. And the idea of the reason why we're changing it to 45 is because when we apply this star, which we're going to use as a little bit of, added extra to the spell, the star won't be straight. It'll be a little bit skewish, but we're also going to rotate it over time. So emission, let's change this to about 100 or a lot more than what it is. Now shape, this is where this comes into play, if it being a little bit more random. So we could theoretically, if we want, have this as cone and change the angle to 180, and you can see what's happening here. It just kind of spreads out like that, and I think that's kind of cool. But you could also have something like a sphere which brings it outwards as well. So it's entirely up to you what you want to do. We may try both. So I'm going to start with cone and then see where we get to. So next what we want is size over lifetime, just here. So if we tick it, we want to start off quite small, so literally nothing, but then instantly bring it quite large. So what we'll do is right click, add key, and bring this key to there, and then dissipate it slowly. So you can see on screen now that it's slowly dissipating, which is exactly what we want. So let's change the duration to 4 seconds. And we are going to untick looping as well, but we need to see how this looks first off. Rotation over lifetime, so we want to tick this. And we want to change this to, let's say, how about 120? So it really rotates. So you can see these rotating as it goes along. So next what we'll do is let's add that star in. So we can drag and drop this star onto our particle system. Lovely. So this star, I'll point out, is a PNG. So this black here is all dead. It doesn't exist. So you can see straight through it. It's completely transparent. So let's press play now and just have a look how this spell will look on the screen. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So let's check how far away it is from the camera. So we may need to move it a little bit further away, maybe about there. And now let's have a look. Okay, so I think that'll do. Again, it's all about different effects that you can create with the particle system. And I'm going to untick looping now because we only want it to occur once. Start size we could change. We could have it a little bit smaller, so 0.5 maybe. And let's just see how this looks. That's not too bad. So we'll stick with that. Now, the main point of this is to create a button which will allow us to press and then basically start this spell going. So to do that, let's set everything up nicely. So let's add an empty game object to the camera and add this chime sound and untick play on await because we only want it to play when we actually start the actual spell. So game object, UI button, and I'm going to call this button, let's just say start spell. And let's have this button at the bottom right, so down here. So 0, 0, and we're probably going to, if I can find the button, it's over there. Let's just bring it up and into view, I guess. In fact, let's double click it so we can see. There we go. Back onto our camera. So now let's get the scripting underway, and it's not too difficult. We want the wind to kind of like go whoosh, so it doesn't instantly come on. It kind of gradually gets to the wind of what we need to do. So let's right click, create C# script. I'm going to call this wind spell. Let's open it up in Visual Studio, and we're going to do 4 variables. The first one is going to be the wind zone itself, because we do actually need to have a wind zone, whether it's your default wind zone or not. As long as you have a wind zone in there, that is the important thing. So if you haven't got one, you need to go to Game Object, and gosh, I can't remember where it is. Wind zone. It's a 3D object, isn't it? Yeah. So 3D object and a wind zone. I had a bit of a mind blank then. So make sure you have a wind zone in your game. We can get rid of any annotations and void start. We don't need that. So let's start with public game object, and we'll just call it the wind semicolon. Next is going to be a bool to say whether the spell is on or not. So public bool spell work. By default, we'll have that as false, semicolon. Next is going to be the green stars. So public game object green stars, semicolon. And next is going to be the audio, the chime. So public audio source, and let's call it chime sound, semicolon. So we're going to start with the actual method for the button itself. So public void spell start, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and we will have chime sound start off. So chime sound dot play. Next we need to have spell work equals true. So the spell is about to work. So in the same vein, what we need to do is in void update, we need to say if it's on, if the spell's on, if we click this button, this is what we're going to do. So if spell work equals, that's double equals true, open curly bracket, and let's have our green stars happen. So green stars dot set active true, semicolon. At this point, we need to increase the size of the wind, so how windy it is, and this is entirely up to how customizable you want this to be. So if, and in brackets, the wind dot get component, and that's capital G, capital C, and in spiky brackets, wind zone, open close bracket, dot wind main is less than or equal to however windy you want this to be. So I have it currently set as 10, but I'm going to have this as 50. So 50 is my limit of how much I want the wind to occur. Semicolon, open curly bracket, not semicolon. I'm getting ahead of myself there. And essentially all we need to do is copy this line of code up to wind main, and then increase it, so plus equals however much you want this to be. So the lower the number here, the slower it will increase. The higher the number, the quicker it will increase. So let's have this as 0.5 f, and there's our semicolon. And we'll see how this reacts to our, that game itself. It's all about play testing and seeing how effective it can be. So it's all down to you, really. So else, because we need it to stop. So if it isn't, if it's above 50, then spell work equals false, semicolon, and save the script. Let's head back into Unity. So now let's turn off our particle system. So that goes away because we don't need it right now. Let's rename this game object that has our sound in, and let's call it chime. And now game object, create empty, and let's add our wind spell to that game object and set those 3 variables. So the wind is going to be the wind zone, green stars is going to be our particle system, and chime sound will be chime. So finally, let's set up our button. So on the button itself, here in the inspector panel, we need to click plus, and then we need to drag and drop this game object that our wind spell is connected to over here. Click on no function, click on wind spell, and then click on spell start. So now let's press play. And there's our wind. You can see it's quite gentle. So I'm going to click on Wind Zone here so we can see this change in the inspector panel. And then I'm going to click on Spell Start. So I think what needs to happen here is 50 is too low. So we can go back to our script here and let's change this to 250. Resave. Head back to Unity. Press play again. And then once it starts up, let's try out our spell. So let's see how this reacts. So you can see how the wind is having an effect here, and it's getting quite windy. And if you want the wind to just suddenly occur, then it's a completely different matter. You know, you probably don't even need any of this going on. You would just simply turn on or off the wind zone. If you wanted to, for example, we could set this as incredibly silly, as say 2500, and the wind changes to, let's say, 100.5 every time. So it'll just go absolutely insane. It's all about, though, how you want it to look in your game. I'm just giving you the methods of how to do it. You incorporate it into your game. So let's try this out and see how insane this looks. Yeah, that looks crazy. So that is how you can create at least a cool looking wind spell using different methods in your game, and really it's down to you how you want to incorporate it. For example, like I said, you could have the shape here as sphere. So in fact, let's quickly try that out and see how that looks. Well, the idea is the same. It's all about you working how you want this to be. So that's another way of doing it. So guys, I hope you learned something here, and I'd love to see the wind spell in your game. So thank you very much for watching.